Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make this twisted intertwining macrame bracelet, and it looks like this here. So you have beads running down the middle, that's then surrounded by rows of knots, but then also by using the different colours and the rows in a certain way, it makes it look like it has this kind of twisted intertwining effect all the way around. And that's what it looks like, and I'll just use macrame closure there. Now I based the design off a previous one that I did quite a while ago now. This is the original one. You can see it's quite similar in the effect and also the technique. It's just using the basic technique a little bit differently to achieve this effect here. So if you want to learn how to make this bracelet, then stay tuned. These are then the materials that we're going to need. Here I have the cord that I'll be using, and this is 1mm satin cord. All three of them are the same. I'm just using these three different colours. One is a turquoise, a white, and then a black, just to have a nice contrast between them all. And then here I have the beads that I'm going to be using. So these are 6mm rounds, and they're just silver coated hematite gemstone beads in this case. And I have two little ones here, again the same beads but just in 4mm. They're just to finish off the piece with. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then in order to begin making our piece here, we need to cut some lengths of our cord. So what I have here first of all is a length of about 50 centimeters of the black. In this case you can choose whatever you want to. And this is going to be the holding cord. And then we need some working cords as well. So what I have here is 6 lengths of about 2 meters each, and I have 2 of each of my colours, so 2 black, 2 white, and then 2 of the blue. So then the very first thing that I did here was take my short length of cord, which is going to be the holding cord, and attach that to my macrame board. It has all these notches all the way along the sides, makes it nice and easy to work with. And then before we can get into making the piece itself, we need to then take all the other lengths of cord and attach them, so all the long ones that we cut off. So what I'm going to do is take one at a time, and I'm just going to start with the black one here. How you choose your colours is up to you. I'm going to put both ends together of the same cord, because I need to find roughly where the middle is, and that's up here. Because then what we need to do is I'm going to take one end, keeping hold of the middle, and put that underneath the holding cord on the board, and then pull it through, so the midpoint here is going to lay underneath the holding cord, and just try and keep it there. Then we need to attach it by using a square knot. So I'm going to take my left cord over the holding cord, then the right one goes over that, and then underneath everything in the middle, so I lift it up and then pull it up through the loop here on the other side, and then pull the cord all the way through, and then just tighten this. And this is the first half of your square knot. So now I need to take the right side, bring that over, the left one over that, underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop. And then pull it through. And then that's the other half, and then that creates one full square knot. So there you go, that's one attached now. You need to attach all the other cords in the exact same way. So here I then attached all my cords, and I took my 2 black ones first, then the 2 blue, and then the 2 white ones on the bottom. And then I just want to make a couple more knots here before we get into making the pattern itself, because I just want to get my cords in the right position. So what I want to start out doing is taking my top cords here, that's just really the one cord, but one on each side, bring them down, so take the very top ones and bring them down over all the others. Then I'm going to make another square knot with these cords, so just the exact same way. And as I tighten this, it's going to get tightened right below the bottom cord that we attached. And then obviously finish it off with the other half. And you can then see there the cord is lying on top of all the other ones going out to the side, but kind of almost framing in all the knots, like that. So now we have a new top cord. That's the next one up here. It's still the black one. Now we need to bring them down and do the same thing. So make a square knot again. Now underneath the one we just made with the first black one, and again the cord is going to lay on the side of the previous knots there and kind of frame them in. Tighten that. You either have to make it one full square knot, and you just want to do this with all the cords. So again, take the next top ones here, in this case now it's the blue ones, bring them down, make a square knot, and then keep doing that until you used up all the cords, just the ones after we attached them. So in this case, once I use my last white one, I know that I've done it with all of them, and then we're ready to start. So I'm now going through all of them here, and then you can also see by using all the cords one at a time, we've then got the cords going out to the side in the same original position where we attached them as. And then what we need to do now as well is start bringing our beads into it. So I've added my larger beads here onto my holding cord, because the holding cord there holds the beads, and I'm just going to push them down, get them out of the way so I have this area to work with. Then what I'm going to do first of all is just start pushing one up at a time. So I just push up my first one, because then we need to start making our first knots here. And the beginning, as we're using the cords the first time, is going to be different than throughout the main part of the bracelet. It's the same technique but just different amounts, because we're going to have different length we need to cross over. So I'm just going to start with this one bead pushed up, and then I'm going to go to my top cords. I'm just going to start on one side. You can start whatever side you want to, because we'll be doing the exact same thing, just mirrored. So I'm going to take my black ones, in this case the top two ones, and these are always going to be working together. And what I'm going to do is use one as a holding cord and one as a working cord. And I'm going to take the very top one, which is kind of the outer one, you could say, holding them like this. That's the working cord. That one needs to go over the holding cord, back underneath and through the loop. So pull it through there, and then pull the length all the way through. And then here you can see you kind of have a 6 that's looping around the holding cord. And then I want to tighten this, and I'm going to hold my holding cord a little bit out to the side as I'm tightening that. And then to finish up that knot, we need to then go underneath the holding cord, back over the top and through the loop again. So you kind of have the same thing here, looks like a 6 again, but it's just looping around the holding cord in the opposite direction. And then tighten that all the way up. And you want to make sure the knot goes all the way up, kind of underneath these cords on the side. So just one more time here. A next knot, which is the same, bring the working cord over, around, back underneath and through the loop. That's the first half, tighten that, and then bring it under, around and through the loop. And then tighten that. So basically what we'll be doing is, the knots right now are kind of hiding underneath there, but as you keep building this you'll be seeing a row of knots forming down this holding cord. And that's what we need to then go around the side here and reach just below the bead. And you obviously want to do the exact same thing on the other side. So just go to the other side, and you're going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to work in reverse. So I'm going to switch hands. So again, the one furthest towards the middle, or the bottom one of the two you could say, is the holding cord, and then the outer one goes over, around and underneath and through the loop there. And then tighten that, and then it goes under, around and through. So it starts with over and then under to then create one full knot. And there we go, I have one knot there. So you just want to make the same amount of knots there on each side. So I made the knots now here on both sides, and what I've ended up with is 9 knots on each side. You just want to make sure, if you're using different materials it might be different, all you need to make sure of is that basically the last knot there is going to reach right below the bead, and they're going to be able to connect there in the middle using the holding cord we need to connect them with. But before we just do that, we just need to move our cords in the right position. So the right one here I'm going to leave over the top, all the knots here over the top of all the cords going out to the side, but on the left side I want to bring it underneath. So I'm just going to bring the cords all the way out to the side there, going straight out over all the knots instead of having them laying under. So just like that, just remember to do that, because that's how to get the design and the pattern that we want here. And then we need to connect them. So we have the 2 holding cords, one from each side. I'm going to use them first, and again just like before we're just making a regular square knot to connect them around the holding cord. So just pull them tight here, that's the first half. You can see it's going to fit just perfectly under the bead. Then the other half, and then I just want to make sure to pull the first half tight, because otherwise it'll be too loose here. Holding that tight with my fingers to make sure it doesn't move back out, while I then tighten up the other half. Just like that. Put them out to the side. Then I'm going to take the next cord, so those were the working cords that made all these knots, and just bring them down over the 2 that I just used, and then just make a square knot with them as well, just so we get them incorporated into the middle as well. Tighten that, and then the other half here. So we again have one full square knot there. We've now connected the 2 rows of knots down the side in the middle again underneath the bead. So that's the very first bead that we incorporated, and also the first rows of knots. Now I want to push up my next bead to go right underneath the knots in the middle there. We just connected the two sides, and then we need to move on to the next colour, you could say. So I need to move back to the top. The next cords I need to use, in my case here, are the blue ones, because those are the next top ones. So just separate them out, and then just going to bring them down here over the others, and I'm bringing them all over just because it's easier to work with while we're making the knots. So just like that. Then you want to basically start doing the same thing. So that means the bottom one of the two is the holding cord, and the top one, which is in the outer one when we're looking like this, is the working cord. So you just start making your knots the exact same way. Go over, back around and through, and tighten, and then under, back around and through. And then that's one full square knot. So that's your vertical lark's head knots, these here. And obviously, same as before, move to the other side and do exactly the same thing. Just make sure you grab the right cord. So take the outer one over, around and through, and tighten. And now the first couple of knots here will go underneath the previous row of knots on the side. But just make sure they go all the way in till you can't pull them any further. You can also just flip it and have a look and make sure everything looks nice and neat. So just like that. So now again you want to use these cords, in my case the blue ones, and make some rows of knots, one on each side. And we're going to need to make a few more knots than we did on the first one here, because we have a bigger gap that we need to get under that very next bead. And now I have the blue rows done here. To reach underneath that bead, what I've done is 11 knots on each side. So this is what fits here. And again, what I'm going to do is take the left one underneath those cords going all the way out to the side. So just going straight up there. So the other four cords basically of the other two colours. Bring that underneath before we connect them, and leave that one on top. And then to connect them, the two sides, we take the holding cords first of all, and then we make a square knot with them. Like that. Pull it tight there, you can see it's going to fit nicely. And then the other half. And then I just pull the first half tight, because as you can see it kind of wants to open up. Before we then tighten it in place with the second half, it will stay in place there. And out to the side with them. And then I just bring the other two, so the working cords, down over and make a square knot with them. And then tighten that. And then once you've done that, that's the, in my case here, the blue one, now fasten together as well. And what you can always do when you're doing these, fastening the two sides together, is just grab hold of your holding cord and then take the two square knots you just done to connect the two sides and just gently push them up a little bit, because you might find that that can tighten up the whole piece a bit, because there might be a little bit of gas between here. So just push them up against the beads and it'll push it nice and close together. So that's now this second colour. So obviously now we need to move on to the very last one that we haven't used yet, which is the white in my case. And this is then the final one, where it's a different amount of knots that we need to do to reach down, because when I push up this bead and then I want to make obviously knots enough to come down here, this is the furthest gap. So we need to make more knots than we have done in the previous two. Just make the amount of knots that we need on each side here to reach below that third bead in this case, with just the next one that's open. And then as for these rows here that I just did with the white cord, that is 14 knots on each side that I've done to reach down just below that bead, the next one in. And again, the left one here, just need to remember to bring it underneath the cords going out to the side before I connect them, and then just connect them in the exact same way using the holding cords first, and then tighten. You can see it's going to fit just perfectly. And just still tighten the first half, just like that, and then bring the other ones down over and also make a square knot there. So just tighten them the same way every time. We make a new little section here, you could say, with the rows on the side, and we'll bring them together underneath the next bead that we're bringing into it. So just like this. Then that's the, in my case, white section done. And then it's moving on to the next one, and now If I go back to the top, it's the black one again. So that's the pattern that's going to be on mine. So the black, blue, and then the white. It's going to continue like that. And what we just did here, this one with the 14 knots in my case for these materials here, that's what we're going to be continuing to do now for the rest of it. Because I push up my next bead, and then for the black one, in order to get down below here, it's going to be the same amount as the one I just did. So that's going to get repeated now, the same amount of knots throughout the rest of the bracelet, except for the very end. We'll basically need to do the exact same thing that we did here, just in reverse. So instead of more knots each time we go up, we need to kind of have less knots, so narrow it down as we taper outwards to the other end. But once we get there, I'll show you that. So just make the length with these knots here now that we need, obviously taking into account the other end, we need to have enough room left to then finish it off in the same way here, just in reverse. So I now kept going here and I reached the other end when you start finishing it off again, but then you can really see the effect that this gives, both the technique of on one side we go over and the other will go under when we're making the rows on the side, but then also the different colours that I use. So the 3 different colours there contrasting each other gives that really nice kind of twisted intertwining effect. And what I also just want to mention is that I've ended up using 10 of my beads here with these materials, and it's going to end up being about a 7.5 inch bracelet. I'm also going to do a macrame closure on it. So you just obviously want to then customize your length to whatever you need. So then to finish off this end here, we need to start graduating downwards again, just kind of how we did in the beginning, but there we just graduated upwards and then in towards the mid part there, where we then added beads as well. Now we just need to do it in reverse. So here, through the main part, I did my 14 knots on each side there, per section. What we need to do now is step down again, where in the beginning we stepped up. And to this point, so I added my last bead there and then connected the rows just underneath there, the last ones. And then the next ones I need to make my rows on. In this case it's just a blue one. What we need to do here is make 11 knots on there. So that's the same on the other end of the second one. So that in that case was the blue as well. So we want to make 11 knots there, and I've already done that. And again we just want to connect these, but what we just need to make sure is that we go over and under the other cords going out to the side in the right way. So on the left here I'm just bringing all the cords over, just like we would normally do, and on the right side I'm bringing my row of knots over the first 2 cords there, in my case are the white ones, but then we need to bring it under the next 2, which are the ones we just connected there in the middle. So they need to come up over as well. And then we bring them down and connect these new ones in the middle. And now these are going to be connected because there's no bead, it's going to be straight underneath, in my case the black knots right there. Do a full square knot. Tighten the first half there and just tighten up the second half while holding on to it. You can see it's going to sit right there underneath the black square knots in my case, and then use the other cords just like all the other times that we connected the middle there. The only difference is now there's no bead in between them, and also we have less knots on the side. So that's the first one. Then we just need to go up to the, in my case, white ones, and also bring them down here. But we need to make some more knots on the side, and because this is the last one where we're going to make knots on the side, we're going to be making 9, which is the same as the very first one that we made up here. So that's the point that we've got to. So just make 9 knots here on each side with the next top ones, and then obviously we want to bring them down as well. And when I then have my rows ready on the side here, the last one, then what you just want to make sure to do is for these ones on the left side, I brought them under the cords going out to the side, and I want to do the exact same thing on the right side, because we now want all the other cords to be above all this, just to make it similar and make it the same as the other end. And then obviously connect this just like all the others, and then this also comes just below the last knot prior to that, which in my case is a blue one. Just tighten that back up. One full square knot, and then the final cords here from making the rows on the side. just like this. And there we go. We now have all the cords coming out to the side, and we have them coming above all the rows on the side there of the knots. And then the final thing that's left to do is just again replicate what we did at the other end, where we have the cord going along the side there and an extra square knot with each cord. So we want to do that here as well, and all we do is just take the very top ones, one on each side, bring that down over the top of all the others, and then make a square knot underneath. And that's where the cord lays and almost frames in the square knots there and gives that nice effect on the side. Put them out to the side and move on to the next one and bring them down over, and just do this with all the cords, so until you've used the very last one. So all of them you've used at the one time. So in my case, I know that when I use the last of the white ones, I know I've used all of them. And once you've done that, this is then what the end will look like. So you have the nice effect, and all your cords coming out to the side, pretty much on the back here, you could say. So all on the same side. So all I have to do now is finish these excess cords off. So you can do that either by adding some glue here on the back along these knots and cutting down the excess, or you can cut them down and then singe the end with a lighter. If you're using synthetic cord, that is. You can only do that if you're using synthetic cord. If it's natural, you have to use the glue. So get rid of all the excess cords here, and then all that's left to do is use the holding cord that's on each end and make a sliding knot. So just bring them together like that, and then that's how you'd finish off the bracelet. Obviously that's assuming that's what you'd want to do. You can also finish it off using cord ends and using findings, but I'm going to make the sliding knot. So just do that. I already have a tutorial where I show how to finish off bracelets like this using macrame enclosure or even the cord ends as well. I'll put a link to that in the description box below there, so you can go there and have a look if you don't know how to do that already. So do that, and then you'll have your finished bracelet. So this is then what the final bracelet looks like. So you have this really nice effect of that twisted, intertwining knotwork. Obviously I've used the contrasting colours, which really helps give the effect as well. And then just a finishing off there with the macrame knot. It's adjustable as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.